Boys, what's good? It's Herm. Welcome back to another episode of 30 Teams, 30 Days, where we preview every team for the 2025 season throughout the month of September. And today we are here with the Brooklyn Nets. Go back and check the Celtics and Hawks videos if you haven't, but the Brooklyn Nets have gone full tank mode. They are embracing the tank, finally getting their picks back in the process. It's going to be a full-on Cooper Flagg mania in Brooklyn this year. But before we get into them, think about subscribing. It's free, it's easy. If you don't like the content, you can always unsubscribe later, that's fine. But without further ado, let's just get into Brooklyn. But before we talk about this season, we need the context. We got to talk about last year. In 2024, they finished 32-50, the worst we've seen them in a little bit. 11th place in the Eastern Conference. They had no All-Stars last season, just one 20-point per game score in Cam Thomas at 22.5. They lost 3 straight games 8 different times, with the longest streak coming at 6 games in March, but had multiple other 5-game losing streaks as well. Just a bit of a rough season for the Nets last year. They missed the play-in tournament, fired their head coach Jacques Vaughn, which fans rejoiced over. They were thrilled because he was very clearly holding back their new star, and it was the first season with Cam Thomas as the star of the team, leading them in both scoring and field goal attempts. But let's look at their offseason, see what's changed. They traded Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks, their crosstown rival. Dennis Smith Jr. did not re-sign in free agency, and Lonnie Walker signed with the Celtics a few days ago. They They added power forward Bojan Bogdanovic in that trade for when they sent out Mikal Bridges, and added small forward Zaire Williams from Memphis. But it is pretty clear to this point they are now committing to the tank, trading their best overall player Mikal Bridges to their crosstown rival, something you wouldn't normally do, but they were more than happy to get picks in return. They also made a deal with Houston to get their picks back, sending them a couple of Phoenix's picks in that deal, most importantly getting back their 2025 selection, the pick for this season. And Cooper Flagg has been lauded as a generational prospect, a 6'10 menace defensively who is very athletic, good offensively as well, and is projected to be the number 1 overall pick in 2025. The team, I would say, was pretty clearly willing to offload the current veteran talent on the roster in exchange to better set up their future with picks and stuff like that. This season to me will focus mainly on growth from the young guys rather than winning games, but seeing improvement from guys like Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, and Jalen Wilson, as well as some others. But to get an idea of what this team will look like, let's just get into the guys on the roster, starting off with the starting lineup. That brings us to Dennis Schroder, who most likely will be the starter at the point guard spot, a 30-year-old point guard, 14 points per game last season, 6 assists and 3 rebounds. Shot 41.2% from 3 in Brooklyn, some of the best we've seen in his career. A solid floor general and initiator of the offense, just a steady presence at the point guard spot that you can rely on to bring the ball up the floor. But however, he does not fit the current timeline in Brooklyn, as they are clearly entering a full rebuild and he is 30 years old. He's coming off of a very impressive performance for Germany in the Olympics. Because of how well he played with the Wagner brothers, a lot of people are advocating for the Magic to trade for him, but they likely wouldn't be the only ones interested, and I think he could be a very high interest target for playoff teams that need point guard help, whether that's as a starter or off the bench, where we've seen him be very good in a 6-man role as well, but I would say feels a little out of place on this Brooklyn roster. Then we get into shooting guard Cam Thomas, the new face of the franchise, a 22-year-old scoring machine, just gets buckets in bunches and seems like scoring comes as naturally to him as breathing. 22.5 points per game, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists last year. Shooting splits wise, shot 44% from the field, 36% from deep, and 85% from the line. All passable numbers. The efficiency has been a concern with Thomas in the past, but I think those numbers are fine, and if they get better, then it's just a win. He's a tough shot maker, but he's also definitely a tough shot taker, with a lot of people likely saying his decision making sometimes is kind of poor, but if he's hitting the shots, I mean, Not a whole lot you can say about it. He is now the undisputed face of the franchise for Brooklyn. A lot of people still could have argued Mikal Bridges was the guy for Brooklyn last season, but at this point, it is definitely Cam. He will have more of a green light than ever before, especially now that Coach Jacques Vaughn is gone. So we should see a jump to over 25 points per game. I think he could average 27, 28, something like that. Before the injury last season, he was averaging about 29 points per game, was very impressive early on, but then thanks to the coaching and stuff like that, the numbers dropped a little bit, but still a career best season last year in what I believe was his third year in the league, and just was super impressive. Has all-star upside to me due to the offensive ability. Just with the scoring, you're going to see him get some all-star votes and some consideration. I think the playmaking has gotten better. I think the defense has gotten better. I don't think he's just a scorer anymore. I think he's worked to improve these other areas of his game, and hopefully he gets to show that off more this season. But he is kind of a divisive player. A lot of people saying he clearly does not have star upside, is destined to be a six-man scoring punch. But to me, I just don't think those type of guys have this level of bag or scoring ability and the ability to lead the offense to good heights. And I think Cam is just a guy who could be a 30-point per game scorer and be a huge piece for this Brooklyn franchise. Then we have small forward Cam Johnson, another Cam, 28-year-old 3-and-D forward. 13.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists last season. As well as shooting 39% from deep on 6 attempts a game. So still shooting a high clip despite the attempt numbers, the volume. Can keep up good shooting with the volume that he has, which is impressive. I'd say he can defend the 2 through 4 pretty easily, can shoot off the catch or off the dribble. When he first got traded to Brooklyn, we saw some more scoring upside, allowing him to do some more self-creation, and was averaging around 18 to 19 points per game. So clearly there's a little more there. Maybe we see more of that this season with Brooklyn, but could also be a trade target at the deadline for teams that want help. He just feels like a perfect guy for a winning team as a complimentary starter that you would love to have. It's his first season in the league without his twin. They call him and Mikal Bridges the twins. Played together in Phoenix and then in Brooklyn, but with Mikal gone, it is now just Cam as the lone survivor here in Brooklyn. Then we have power forward Bojan Bogdanovic, getting a little up there, now 35 years old, but is still a bucket getter. 15 points per game last season, 3 rebounds and 2 assists on nearly 40% from deep. Had some injury concerns at the end of last season, ended up missing the playoffs, and just had his lowest scoring season since 2018. He might be finally hitting somewhat of a decline, but is definitely still a guy that can create his own shot, and maybe it was just because he was on a more stacked team in New York that he didn't get the same opportunities. He might still be that level of score. We'll see that this season, and if he does show 20 point per game scoring ability still in Brooklyn, I think could be a very big trade target. Then we get into the last starter, center Nick Claxton, probably the second most important guy on this team right now outside of Cam Thomas. 25 years old, really good rim protector, 12 points per game, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists last season on a very solid 63% from the field, as well as over 2 blocks per game. He has all defense potential. That season with Kyrie and KD, the last one, before they got traded, it looked like Claxton was a legitimate DPOY candidate. So if he gets better talent around him, which we likely won't see this season, we could see his performance go back to that level as he thrived in a complementary role with a really good playmaker. So we'll see what that looks like. With Schroder still there this season, we could see that help, but does need others to create his shot. He's not going to create his own shot. He's not going to take people off the dribble, but if he is in pick and rolls with a good ball handler, we could see his scoring take a jump. He's very efficient at the rim and a good lob catcher, so again, just a kind of prototypical pick and roll big man. Could be a key building block for this team moving forward, thanks to all defense level defense and a growing offensive game that can look better in a better environment. Then we have the reserves, the key reserves that I want to talk about for this team, focusing mostly on the young guys. Starting off with small forward Jalen Wilson, who I really like. a 23-year-old scoring wing, a second-round pick in the draft prior to this past one in 2023, 5 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist per game last year. Didn't get a ton of play time, but I thought he looked solid when he was out there. He really showed out in the summer league this past year and the year before that, has looked really good both times, so maybe with more opportunity he could look more impressive. He will have a larger role this year in 2025, I think that's for sure. Should be a key piece of the rotation, can create his own shot, doesn't need others to create for him, which is obviously very valuable, and I think he could be a key building block for this team moving forward. Then we have center Noah Clowney, a 20-year-old rim protector, a first-round pick in 2023, 6 points, 3.5 rebounds, and an assist last season, as well as 0.7 blocks in just 16 minutes. So if you flex that to the per 36 minutes you usually look at, it would be about 2 blocks per 36. He really impressed down the stretch of last season with Claxton sitting out, with Sharp dealing with some injuries as well. Clowney showed out with that opportunity, having some 20-point games, double-doubles, and I was just really impressed. He, as well as Wilson, will have a larger role this season. He's a good shot blocker as well as a pretty good rebounder, and again, a guy that I think could be a key building block for Brooklyn. Then we move into maybe the most popular guy on the team, point guard Ben Simmons, a 28-year-old giant point guard standing at 6'10", 6 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists last season. 58% from the field as well, pretty solid. A lot of people concerned with efficiency, but his efficiency last year I would say was pretty solid. A 3-time All-Star as well as the Rookie of the Year before those 3 straight All-Star appearances, 2-time All-Defense, but injuries continue to be an issue with him only playing 16 games I believe last season. We need to see more of him. That's kind of the biggest issue on top of the declining scoring, but is an elite passer, but this could be his last chance to return to his prior form. It is his last season on that massive contract he signed with Philadelphia, so if he can't ball out this season, we might not see him in the league again, or at least not on a big money contract. Maybe a team takes a flyer, but this is his last chance to really prove that he still has that level of player in him that was making all-star teams. Now let's look at the projected lineup, what I think it'll be. The starting 5 to me should be Dennis Schroder, Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Bogdanovic, and Nick Claxton. But as we get further into the season, we could see them lean more into the young guys. Maybe Wilson or Whitehead or even Clowney get some starting minutes. But the backup 5, the first 5 off the bench, Ben Simmons, Dariq Whitehead, Jalen Wilson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Day'Ron Sharpe. I think Clowney probably starts the season behind Sharpe, but could usurp him and be the backup big. But both of them impressive young bigs who I think are worth investing more time into. Then we have what to expect for Brooklyn in 2025. On the low end, I think they could finish last place in the Eastern Conference as they tank hard for Cooper Flagg. On the high end, maybe they be a borderline play-in team, maybe even sneak in thanks to jumps from key guys on the team, young guys like Thomas or Claxton. The coaching in year 1 without Jacques Vaughn should be much improved, so the fans at least have that to be thankful for. Despite Cam Thomas potentially playing at an all-star level, it's extremely unlikely to me that Brooklyn will have an all-star just because of what their record will likely look like. Expect a season with a lot of ups and downs. There might be stretches where they look pretty solid as a unit and then they kind of fall back apart without really a proven guy on this team. But the combo of Ben Simmons and Cam Thomas was really fun to watch last year. Ben Simmons just doesn't really want to score right now, it feels like, and Cam wants to score all the time. So the ability to find Cam, get him easier looks than these really tough shots he's accustomed to, I think was really fun to watch. And those two together, if we can see it this season, I'm excited for it. But whatever happens with Brooklyn, the team will be fun and have very interesting players to watch, like Cam Thomas as he chases maybe 30 points per game, Ben Simmons if he can return to form, and what Nick Claxton looks like in maybe a more expanded offensive role. But to me, it'll be super fun to watch. I like the young guys. I like Cam. I like Wilson. I like Claxton. Clowney's a fun guy. Dariq Whitehead, if he can kind of push back the injury stuff that we saw at Duke and even somewhat in his rookie season, he could be an interesting piece as a sharpshooter, but we'll see what it ends up looking like. I'm excited for this team, despite the fact they probably won't be all that good, but it's about Cooper Flagg. They're going all in on the tank, and I really respect them being able to get their own pick back and controlling their future once again, and I think it'll be fun to watch. But that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. It is going to be the Hornets tomorrow, I believe, and I'm excited for it. But hey, let me know your thoughts. Think about subscribing, liking, drop comments, whatever. But I appreciate you for watching. Have a good one. Peace.